Hello everyone and welcome to the other game that decided a spot in the candidates tournament, also from the final round of the FIDE Grand Swiss. It is Vidit Gujarati versus Alexander Predke, and going into this round, Vidit, if he wins, he of course gets a spot in the candidates tournament. If it's a draw, then most likely he gets a spot in the candidates tournament, and if Alexander Predke wins, then Alexander gets a spot in the FIDE Candidates Tournament 2024. So let's check it out, and then we are going to discuss who is in and who will potentially get in over the course of the year. So Vidit had the white pieces and he opened with d4. We have pawn to d5, c4, the queen's gambit, and now d captures on c4. This is most likely the best attempt at trying to win with black, accepting the queen's gambit. Knight f3, knight to f6, and pawn to e3. Now we have pawn to e6 and bishop captures on c4. So the main line, a6, we have castles, and now pawn to c5. D captures on c5 is the main move. This is what Vidit plays. We have bishop captures and a queen trade occurs. So captures, and bishop back to e2. The knight will be able to come to e5, and if you want, you can shift the bishop even to this long diagonal. So king to e7, knight b to d2, and bishop to d7. Again, these are all moves that have been played before. Knight b3, bishop to b6, bishop to d2, and knight to c6. We have bishop to c3, now claiming this long diagonal for the dark square bishop. Rook h to g8, and now we have rook f to d1. And now there is a game, Zdenko Kozul played it against Veselin Topalov in 2001. It was played in Bosnia, in Sarajevo, and that game continued with rook 8 to c8 by Veselin. The game ended in a draw, but 8 to c1, continuing development, and now pawn to g5. Predke wants more from this game than just reshuffling pieces and going for some sort of a calm draw. Knight f to d4, and now knight captures on d4. But before recapturing, first a nice bishop to b4 check. Point being that if the knight comes to d5, you will not have to give up the bishop. You will be able to play bishop to c5 and counter Alexander's strong dark square bishop on b6. So king to e8, and now recapturing with knight captures on d4. So pawn to g4. Like I said, if you go knight d5, attack the bishop, then bishop to c5 will be very strong for white. Pawn to g4, grabbing more space on the king side, and now knight back to b3. We have rook to g5, not just advancing the pawn for its own sake, but also to get the rook into the game this way. We have knight to c5, and now comes bishop to c6. Point is that you don't want to give up the bishop pair, and also you don't want to give up the b7 pawn, but maybe perhaps the most solid way to play is just to give up the bishop pair, and now okay, either everything gets traded off, or let's say bishop captures and then the rook returns to the c8 square, like Topalov played against Kozul. But here we have bishop to c6. This is a pawn sacrifice, but it does grant the bishops this these long diagonals, and okay, Vidit accepts. He plays knight captures on a6 and grabs the pawn. If the knight is captured, then of course a rook captures and c6 happens. So knight to d7, now also the f5 pawn, the f pawn can be pushed, and now bishop to f1. We have rook to a8 going after the knight, but now we have bishop to d6 by Vidit, and this is a very, very tricky move, perhaps even the best move of the game. It's hard to say. The idea is that while you still can't capture the knight as the bishop is hanging, you might play something like, let's say, b3 to prepare pawn to a4. But now this bishop to f3 move could be very annoying, and if you play, let's say, captures, this opens up a discovery. You will move the king, and now b captures on a6 happens. It could be very dangerous for white. But after this bishop to d6 move, it's much different. Now, if you try the same idea, let's say you go for bishop to f3, g captures with checking h1, and now b captures on a6. Now the rook already comes to c6, and very, very hard to play this for black. It's very hard to even move anything here. So instead, after bishop to d6, bishop to a4 was played, putting pressure on the rook here, and now we have bishop to f4, going after the rook on g5. Also one of the reasons why the bishop was very nicely placed on d6. We have rook to a5 now, not going for the rook trade, and knight to c7 with check, forcing Alexander to give up the dark square bishop. So bishop captures, we have bishop captures, attacking the rook, and now bishop captures on d1, bishop captures on a5, rook captures on a5, and rook captures on d1. So going into a full endgame, again, you cannot go after the pawn. If you play rook captures on a2, then bishop to b5, and you now lose a piece, and of course the game. So after rook captures on d1, knight to e5 was played, and now pawn to a4. Again, the pawn is defended with a tactic. If you capture on a4, then bishop to b5 check, forks the rook and the king. So after a4, rook to c5 was played, and now we have rook to d4, and now rook to b4. Going after the b7 pawn, we have rook to b1, and now is the moment you really have to make a good decision. So far, Vidit pretty much played everything perfectly, but you could very easily ruin it now. You don't capture the pawn, that goes without saying. If you capture, then goes knight to c4, and well, you will have huge problems here if the knight lands on d2. Not much you can do after that. So feel free to pause the video and figure out how to continue the game for Vidit here while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this very fine maneuver. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is pawn to f4, giving your king some breathing room with tempo. And now you will be able to capture the pawn on b7 and start advancing your past a pawn. That is the way to victory. Just knight captures on f3 and king to g2, just going after that knight. Knight to d2, other attempts aren't much better. Now you're attacking the bishop on f1. Bishop to d3 attacks the rook, and the rook to e1. Here, Vidit repeated once. He wanted to see what Alexander will play after king to f2, because he can always repeat as well. Rook h1, king g2, rook to e1, and now, only now, rook captures on b7. So the pass pawn has been created, and if you don't play something extremely meaningful, then basically in 4 moves you resign. So rook captures on e3 was played, attacking the bishop. Now bishop to b5 check, and while you would of course go to the queen side, as that's where all the action will be, this will just blunder the knight on d2. So of course you have to go king side. King to f8 was played, and now pawn to a5. Vidit starts pushing, and as he's pushing, he's getting closer and closer to the candidates tournament. We have rook to e5. He goes after the bishop, but not really, as the bishop is defended. a6, and now rook to g5 with check. King f2, knight to e4 with check. King e3, knight to d6. Now attacking the rook, but of course Vidit will not react. A queen is much better than a rook. So pawn to a7, and now rook to e5 check. Few more checks will be given, but that's all there is. King f3, rook to f5 with check. King g2, king to g2 was played. Rook to g5 with check. King to h1, and it was in this position on move 47 that Alexander Peretke resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. There's no way to complicate, no way to try anything, to force anything. A8 queen is unstoppable, and that's pretty much all there is. You can take the rook, of course, but a8 queen comes with check, so even that doesn't help you. King g7, queen captures, defends the bishop. Of course, a queen and bishop for a rook. Not much point in continuing this. So after king to h1, he resigned. He played a beautiful tournament. He played attacking chess and got great results with it. And in the final round, he did have a chance with the black pieces to qualify for the candidates, but it is Vidit who will be joining Hikaru through the FIDE Grand Swiss into the 2024 FIDE Candidates Tournament. And if you guys are interested, here are Vidit's results throughout the rounds. He actually started a tournament with a loss, which is quite incredible. Not only does he qualify for the candidates, he also wins the FIDE Grand Swiss. That's absolutely amazing. And to start with a loss and to win it, that means he definitely got a lot of wins afterwards. So all of his opponents were Grandmaster. He defeated the Gupta, Koloras, Shirov, then a draw against Evgeny Nair, then back-to-back wins against Hans Niemann and Jawakir Sindarov, then 2 draws to Hikaru and Esipenko, and finishing it off nicely with wins against Bogdan Daniel Deak and Alexander Peretke now in the final round. So now we know 6 of the candidates of the FIDE Candidates Tournament, and 2 more spots will be rewarded. 1 spot will be rewarded via the so-called the FIDE circuit, and the 1 will be rewarded via the highest rating as of January 2024. So it's still hard to say who will it be. For example, if we check out the live ratings, you can see that okay, Alireza is 2762, and above him are Nepo, Hikaru, and Fabiano, who have already qualified. Ding is the world champion, so he cannot qualify, and Magnus does not want to play, so he will not qualify. So Alireza should qualify via the highest rating if he manages to remain the highest rated player, until January 2024. And he did lose 14 points now, so he did get much closer to Anish. Anish and Wesley and perhaps Karyakin are all in that realm of maybe even catching up to Alireza and qualifying via the highest rating. Maybe even Anand qualifies. It's not impossible. I mean, that's like 12 rating points. So Alireza has the highest chance of qualifying via the highest rating, and here are some of the standings from the FIDE circuit. So Fabi is currently leading the FIDE circuit with 104 points, but he's already qualified. And the second in the FIDE circuit is none other than Gukesh. He has 79.50 points, and the next to him is Wesley So with 78.84, and then it's Anish Giri with 75.87. So through the FIDE circuit, best chances have Gukesh, Wesley, and Anish Giri, and through the highest rating, as you've seen, it's Alireza, but also it could be anyone else. So it's still very hard to say who will be the last 2 candidates. Best chances for now, Alireza and Gukesh, but also Anish Giri on both of. It will be very hard to say. We'll just have to wait and see. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Big congratulations to Hikaru and Vidit on qualifying, and also to Vidit on actually winning the FIDE Grand Swiss. It's an incredible achievement. Over 160 players here, strongest grandmasters in the world, definitely deserving of a spot in the candidates tournament. That's the game, and a little bit of extra info. If I'll probably make another video on the event. Probably will cover some of Vaishali's games, as she also qualified for the candidates tournament. I don't know if it's the first time in history that we have a brother and sister who have qualified simultaneously for a candidates tournament, but I'm pretty sure it will be the first time that we have a brother and sister who are simultaneously grandmasters when Vaishali is awarded her grandmaster title. So, absolutely incredible on that front as well. Hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Sam's Giant Tortoise Farm, Marvin Sparrow, Gerhard Henkelman, Perforsa Love Marie, and India for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.